If you were poking around the internet in the early 2000s, then there's a pretty good chance you remember Neopets.com. At the time, internet browsers were becoming this brand new way to make interactive experiences, so naturally we saw this gigantic boom in web games, from social stuff on their own sites like Habbo Hotel and later Club Penguin, to the hundreds of little flash games that would populate websites like Miniclip and Newgrounds. But some websites took it just so many steps further than that. They would create entire worlds for you to explore, all within your browser. Adventure Quest was an old favorite of mine, but I still don't think anybody has ever really done it quite like Neopets. I remember in grade 4, my friend Daniel sat me down at his living room computer. You know, back when you would huddle around the desk and show your friends the stuff you found online, and he shows me Neopets.com. And he's got all these funny little critters as pets, and some of them had pets. They're called Petpets, and he had to feed them or they'd get sad. And he's going on and on and on about this item called a baby paintbrush. Apparently there was paintbrush items that could change the color and the design of your Neopet, and he's like, man, that baby paintbrush costs so many Neopoints, I'm never going to afford one, but if you get a baby paintbrush, oh, it makes your Neopet adorable as heck. But it really was everything surrounding the whole virtual pet thing that really made Neopets special. You were clicking around all this big-ass world map and talking to characters and finding secrets and shops and cool places to buy rare and weird stuff. But first you were gonna have to get some Neopoints to spend. Yeah, you could rack these up every day just by playing all these different games around the site. It was innovative and it was legendary, and it kind of feels like 100 years ago now, but dude, Neopets was once a force to be reckoned with.
Neopets! Neopets! Neopets at McDonald's.
Big ass partnerships here, dude. We had so many toys at McDonald's and even Burger King as well. And not even just in the real world, this also happened in the world of the website. I mean, we're talking about a web game where at one point in time, you could walk into a McDonald's and buy your Neopet a Big Mac. That was a real thing you could do. From the partnerships to all the toys to the animations, Neopets was huge back in the day. It's so weird to think about now because so much time has passed and the property has bounced between all these different owners, and the website saw a huge decline in interest over the years. But shortly after launching in '99, this thing remained hugely popular throughout the entire 2000s. And only 4 years into their glorious run, they were so freaking big that they got a video game deal with Sony. Think about that at the time, a licensed video game deal with PlayStation. In May of 2003, they proudly announced that a Neopets video game was now in development. The world of Neopets was just about to jump right out of your internet browser, straight into the land of 3D on your very own PlayStation. And yeah, not the PS2, the PlayStation, the original. While the final game did come out on PlayStation 2, development originally started for the PS1. What a weird choice. I mean, it was 2003. The PS2's been out for years. Well, it is easy to forget, but the PS1 actually did so freaking well that companies were still making games for it well into the release of the PS2. And you can still play your PS1 games on your new PS2 anyway, so when factoring in budget and whatever, that's just kind of the way she blew sometimes. I couldn't really find a whole lot about this original PS1 version, aside from a couple of screenshots and even some very low-res box art. But either way, they said this game was going to be out in November of that year, which didn't happen. The game was soon delayed, with an update on Neopets.com in that October, explaining that they were going to remake the game from scratch for PS2, and that it would be out in 2005 now. Don't worry, that's only 581,268,400 seconds away, roughly. You know, there's some Neopets humor for you. That's actually a pretty good example of what the humor on the website was like. It was very much like, it kind of felt like a shitty Nintendo Power Editor cracking the worst joke you've ever seen, yet something about it, you just can't help but to smile anyway. Now, I don't know if this delay was because they, landed more budget from Sony or something, but either way, it really did seem as if they were committing to that ambition of truly bringing to life the world of Neopia. Developers switched over from the Code Monkeys, known for, whatever all this is, to Idle Minds, the people who made My Street? They got the freaking My Street devs to make this? My Street of all things. That's a weird game. I remember playing a lot of this one summer when I was going through all my sister's PS2 games, and I just kept thinking to myself, every game I tried, I would just think, God, I wish he had that Neopets game. Like, I did know about this back then. I saw it in Archie comics of all things. I saw the print ads, and they told me it was just on PS2. I just had a GameCube. I was a Nintendo kid. So you're telling me I can't play the Neopets game? But wait, my sister has a PS2, but it's up to her what the games are. So it's just like, please get the Neopets game. Please get the Neopets game. She never got the Neopets game, so old GameCube Jimmy over here never got to play it. PS2 only. I didn't know Neopets hated Nintendo fans. Yeah, little James, that's exactly what happened. They hated you, specifically. No, do you remember when you would see, like, a magazine ad as a kid, and for, like, console war reasons, you would feel personally betrayed by something? I guess I even drew a mustache on the character. Like, I still have this Archie comic. I don't think I did that because I was mad, though. I think I just used to do that. To like everything. My Sonic Adventure 2 manual is still defaced for that very reason. Why did I used to do this? I've actually always wanted to play this thing. It just seemed like such a good idea. You take the whole world of Neopets and turn it to a shitty little Zelda game. You know, just an excuse to walk around the world and really be there and see it all in 3D from a new angle. So I bought the game on eBay a long time ago, probably like 9 or 10 years ago. It was really cheap, and it just kind of remained on the shelf for a long time, just one of those bucket list games. And then fast forward till 2019, that's when my wife and I first started dating. The first time she's in my room, she goes over to the game shelf just to, you know, see what I got, and she's like, "Oh, you got Neopets, the Darkest Faerie. I used to love that game." You know, she just goes absolutely berserk when she sees this thing. So I do think it is one of those games that people that grew up with it do seem to remember it pretty fondly. At least the Neopets fans do. So it'll be really interesting seeing just how well everything about it holds up. And I guess it all boils down to just how magical they can make it all feel. And opening up the game case, well, that's off to a pretty good start. The manual looks like some sort of ancient tome or something. That's so cool. Well, let's pop this guy in there and give it a go already.
There are legends that dwell within the hidden places of Neopia.
Right away, we get this pre-rendered scene showing a little backstory. There was an evil fairy turned to stone at the bottom of the ocean, and the necklace keeping the curse in place withers away, and she is free once more.
Others are of the darkest kind.
The Darkest Faerie. I just realized how small the word Neopets is here. You'd think that's what they would really be banking on. You know, that's the brand power right there, but I don't know, they made this they made the title really big and Neopets really small. A title I remember not even really thinking much of as a kid. The Darkest Faerie. It doesn't really have the same ring as like Wind Waker or Majora's Mask or anything else Zelda had. Also, the idea of an evil fairy being the bad guy didn't really appeal much to little boy James, but yeah, if you are familiar with the world of Neopets, the fairies are the most powerful and important individuals in that game world, so having an evil fairy be the villain here, that just makes total sense. Well, anyway, enough pooping around, let's start a new game. Act 1, Tormund's Story. We begin in a small farm village near the castle town of Meridell. Tormund, this funny wolf guy here, is playing funny nights with his little sister and her friends. I love how he knocks her over, and then it cuts to the other kids looking all concerned.
Is it true? Yeah, is it? Are you gonna be a knight?
Well, I don't want to brag, but...
My winnies! Tor! Mom is going to kill you!
With his dream of being a knight looking dumb as hell to these kids, Tormund gets back to his farmerly duties. So naturally, we open up with a tutorial conveyed through some farm chores. Do you know how to move the camera? Ever see the joystick? Our first task is to herd together all those winnies we set loose. Wow, way to open the game with something kind of annoying. I bet every person replays this being like, oh yeah, Neopets, Darkest Faerie, and they get to the first part, it's like, oh yeah, why is this the first thing we do? It's not the hardest thing in the world, you just gotta be careful about it. I don't know why I just can't pick them up though. Or would that be too similar to Zelda? Still though, like why is this the first thing you do? I couldn't imagine a Zelda game teaching you how to pick up chickens as the first thing. Like, this is definitely one of those examples of them thinking more about the physical scene and what makes sense in that, and less about what gameplay actually makes the most sense to teach first. Well, we learn how the key items work, you get the inventory going, that's pretty cool, how it's all hand-drawn like that. Even the little character portrait and everything. Tormund's design is based on the Loop, which was, it was just a Neopet you could get in the site, except they made them all, like, anthropomorphic. They made them stand up with hands and everything. I guess I did that so we could, you know, wield a sword and shield and perform actions that a character like Link would be able to do. And I'd say they did a really good job of translating the design. I mean, the original Loop design was pretty great as it was, but this is actually a fantastic interpretation of it, and the way they completely bring it to life with all of the bouncy animation, all the different walk cycles for the different speeds. He's got so much spring in his step, the way the tail flops all around. You can really tell that a lot of love and work went into the characters here. Once we're done with those chores and we're all learned up on how to push blocks and climb ladders and all that good stuff, we then get that hero's journey ass story beat where the dad's all like, "Tormund, you must deliver this to the kingdom."
This one goes to Meridell.
To Meridell? To the castle?
Oh, it is such a feel-good ass, the little guy wants to go on the big quest ass story, but hey, it does have a lot of heart behind it, and I would much rather something take itself seriously and end up being kind of hokey and dorky than I would them wink and nudge at the camera and tell jokes nonstop. Like, God, I remember when I played Ratchet and Clank Infinite, I literally turned the voices all the way off at a point because the enemies were just joke machines that would not shut up.
This is the key to the chest upstairs. In it is the sword I had when I was young.
Entrusting his son with a weapon for the very first time, Tormund's quest to become a true knight is finally kindled.
But knights follow a code of chivalry. They defend the weak, they don't lie, and always keep their word. They fight only for the right causes. Do you understand?
Accepting this new responsibility for the very first time, Tormund grabs a sword from the house and begins destroying his parents' stuff. Busting your pots, destroying your crops, I am ruining my family's livelihood, but I'm getting paid Neopoints for it, so it has to be a good thing. But yeah, pots and grass, you got your classic Zelda ways of looking for items and money. You're gonna want to stock up on the healing items especially, so grab those jupies whenever you can. You can dick around at the farm for a little bit longer if you want to, just finding chests and items and stuff, but once you're ready, we set out for Meridell, equipped with nothing but a crappy wooden sword. Well, may as well see what this thing can pull off. Yeah, of course you got the old Zelda spin attack. It's nowhere near as tight feeling though, kinda hollow and fluffy. It's not very good for combat, honestly, but it is at least pretty good at cutting the grass. You get a good wide radius with it. You also got a little jump slash. This one can be pretty helpful at times. It is pretty powerful. If you mash the button, you'll do a bunch of quick stabs, and it looks cool and feels cool, but what you're really going to want to do is learn how to time out that 3-hit combo. Yeah, like that. The third swing on this will always do the most amount of damage. Speaking of damage, is it even possible to avoid damage in this game? I swear, no matter what angle I take, no matter how I approach things, I always get knocked around like a frickin' pinball. Maybe it'll be better when we find a shield, but I don't know. There's like no way to get out of the way. There's no way to dodge here. Now, I guess this is back before it was common to give games like a dedicated dodge button. You know, it was before Demon's Souls came out and every developer was like, oh, one of these needs to give you iframes, and that's how we make all games from now on, for example. No, like back in the day, you would just like move your guy out of the way just with a joystick, and I never really ever had a problem with that. Sphinx of the Cursed Mummy, for example, there's a lot of sword play, no dodge button, you just move the stick to get him out of the way, and it never ever gave me a problem. I always found it like perfectly doable. But here in this game, the animations are really sluggish. You always have this awkward beat after you attack before you can move again, and that leaves you open every single time, and the speed at which the enemies attack you is actually faster than you can physically get out of the way. So as far as I can tell, dodging is actually impossible here. The only way I could survive was by gobbling down jupies with a triangle button and just tanking all the hits. And yeah, there's no animation for healing. You just press the button and no matter what you're doing, even mid-animation, mid-swing of the sword, it will instantly give you your health. So you're also kind of invincible as long as you have healing items and you know to press the button, which is extremely easy to do. It feels like they made bad combat, knew it was bad, and instead of making it good, they were like, well, here's a band-aid fix, just give them a bunch of healing items that they can abuse, and hey, they'll get through the fights that way. Oh no, this isn't very good at all. So, we defeat a bunch of bandits on the main path, and then this blue frog guy, voiced by Steve Blum, thanks us for our heroic effort.
You deserve a little something for your effort.
That's not necessary. A true knight
knows when to accept an honest gift for your trouble here. Remember never to take it off. It's a very special piece.
Never take it off? Well, Tormund doesn't ask any questions. Okay, sure, thanks, Mr. Frog. Wait, what was that? He was like... So before Snarlong, we then discover Motes, these little elemental magic thingies that you can equip to your sword. I thought the menu looked a little bit intimidating and complicated at first, so I kind of ignored these for the first little bit, but it is pretty simple once you realize what's going on here. There are 6 elements, and each one has an opposite, which is across from it on the menu. So for example, up here we have light magic, both weak and strong. Down here across from it, we have dark magic, both weak and strong. And then up here we have fire, weak and strong, and then so on with wind, earth, and water. So, you know, basically the whole idea here is to figure out which element an enemy has, you equip the opposite one, and then you'll be doing extra damage. Attacking with a mote equipped will then drain your magic meter, as well as using up the motes themselves. Though I wouldn't worry about, like, saving them, because you get more than you will know what to do with. On the website, motes were just for this little battle mini-game. I guess they're called motes because they all have a different emote on their face, but I think that name just kind of makes it confusing what they're for. They should have been called elementals or something. Now, there is this book that explains which elements are weak against which, but you actually don't need that because the way the menu is set up, the opposites are just opposite of each other. So every time you have a hunch as to which element an enemy has, you just select the opposite from it on the menu. It's all a very neat system, and for the most part, it is pretty optional. You don't actually have to try to do this if you don't want, though there are times where using motes is mandatory, for example doing it on your shield to deflect certain types of magic. But it's always something the game just tells you how to do, it's never unobvious. You can also equip your armor with a mote. I think that makes you take less damage if you have the right one on, but I never really bothered with that much because it is pretty easy to tank every fight with the healing items anyway, so only thing I was thinking about was doing more damage. Oh, and chests too, sometimes there's ones with magical locks. Just equip the same mote of the color of the chest and you'll swing at it, open it up, and grab what's inside. Now this is the best way to find Neopoints, by looking for all of these treasure chests here. The map screen will even kindly tell you exactly how many you've found there so far. Now that's handy. You know, I really gotta say, this is a thoroughly pleasant game world to explore, just going around and stumbling upon all the side stuff. It's a really cute looking game. The colors are vibrant, the shapes are simple, there's so much detail, yet it's not overwhelming with it, and you've got like the most magical sounding soundtrack on top of that. This stuck out to me right away. From the moment I heard music on the title screen, I was just thinking, wow, that is like really nice. Who made this? And so I look it up and guess who it is? It's the dude that made the soundtrack for Mass Effect. No wonder it's so good. It is top to bottom an amazing soundtrack, so for the remainder of the video, that's all I'm gonna be using. The sound mix here also isn't half bad, especially for the time. Like, we all know a lot of games back then did not have the best sound mix. I'm willing to bet it's that Sony budget because this game's music is always at an appropriate volume. The dialogue in every cutscene is always clear and easy to understand. The sound effects are also pretty good. They're all very clear and readable and rather satisfying, like when you break stuff and get money. And such an enchanting medieval soundtrack would not be complete without the sounds of nature. The jingles too, the little "you did it" noises, they're also pretty good. Wait, what is that? That noise, that like wang, wang, you hear that, a little... What the heck am I hearing? This seems just to kind of happen sometimes, and I have no idea why. It's such a quiet and subtle noise, I don't know what the hell it means. Well, anyway, after much hiking, we eventually get to Meridell. And the moment we get there, we get robbed. Alright, come here, little bugger, I'm gonna chase you down. Why does it make that sound every single time?
Give me back the package.
I don't think so.
We corner the criminies into an alley, and then, oh no, there's too many. Oh, but then, Cool Guy Hero Knight shows up.
Any who wishes to live should leave now.
That's Johnny Test. That's like Johnny Test doing a cool guy voice, isn't it? Yeah, right, it's literally James Arnold Taylor.
You're a brave one, willing to take on such odds. I'd wager you'd make a fine knight someday.
Thank you, sir. I hope to.
I know you will.
Great, the noise is back. Now with some fresh inspiration, Tormund heads down to the Knight Academy and signs up to finally become a knight himself. We first, however, need a sponsor from an existing knight, which means kissing up to this bozo, Master Torak. Well, he doesn't care too much about us at first, but after we find all of the pieces to his broken sword and repair it for him, well, that gets his attention. He agrees to sponsor us as long as we can get her parents' written permission? Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Okay, well, I may as well look around Meridell before we head back to the farm. There's actually a lot to do here. For starters, there's the combat arena where you can fight for prizes, mostly Neopoints, but the first prize is a shield, so we finally get our hands on one of those. And I'd say a better sword is also in order, so why don't we head down to the blacksmith and finally get something made out of metal. There we go, on the way to knighthood already. What else do we got around here? Oh, there's a carnival wheel where you can gamble your Neopoints. I hate this thing, I always lose. Tons more shops, places where you can buy motes and healing items, and some of the shopkeepers here will even have some quests that you can take on. Oh, we got Rory the shady guy. What do you got for us, Rory? Maps. Oh, yo, we'll take those maps. The maps are always worth it. Each one marks a spot on your map, and if you find it, you'll discover some buried treasure. I love how he just doofily stares at everything he finds. Just sitting there, Neopoints pouring all over onto him. No emotion whatsoever. Well, I guess money can't buy happiness. It does buy misery, though. That much it does do. The side quests can also be a pretty good way to get Neopoints. Sometimes an NPC will have something for you, usually a simple fetch quest, or maybe you'll have to fight some enemies, perhaps find an item out in the world for someone. The simpler ones don't usually have the greatest rewards, like this guy here just gives you one crappy recovery item for fighting these crows. Like, some of these are just not worth it at all. But you will want to tackle as many as you can, though, because some of these do give you a lot, and some even give you new equipment, too. Man, I really love just how much you can do between the major story beats. It feels like I actually have the freedom to make the adventure somewhat my own. And it also helps make the world feel like a world, not just like a video game place where everything is, you know, just for the main guy. They have all of these props and items and stuff all within the environment that sort of paint a picture as to what the people would be doing here when you're not looking. And the NPCs are just great. I love that they're all random Neopets, sometimes with their designs altered a bit, just like Tormund. All the goofy walking animations. This game is really unintentionally funny sometimes. The way the characters will, like, randomly wave at you. Every time they do this, it always gets a good chuckle out of me. The NPC models do repeat a lot, though. Unfortunately, only so many Neopets actually made it in as NPCs. There are a lot that got left out. Maybe they ran out of time or something, or, you know, had so much budget, but I'm just saying, it would have been really cool to see many more of these designs show up as NPCs, instead of just seeing the same handful over and over and over. But you do gotta at least love all the stupid noises these guys make. You can talk to so many NPCs, and they all have so much random stuff to say. A lot of it's not important or helpful, aside from maybe telling you where a shop is, I guess, but for the most part, it's all just really small talk, and that's actually pretty cool. You get to hear what people think of each other, what's going on around here. And there's something about that that just really made me want to talk to every single character. A lot of them are pretty freaking adorable, too. Once we're all done dicking around in Meridell, we then head back to the farm, and there, we discover that her sister has gone missing.
She was upset that you were allowed to go to Meridell. She said she wanted to go on an adventure too. You don't think
She wouldn't go off into Shadowglen Woods, would she?
She went off into Shadowglen Woods. Yeah, the dumb little kid wanted to go on a big epic quest of her own, and now she's frickin' lost. So we have to fight our way through a whole bunch of evil plant creatures to rescue her. Holy heck, that's a giant mutant Joopy. It's not a very difficult fight, just keep dodging and whacking, and our sister is as good as saved.
I'm so proud of you, son. Wait until I tell everyone, our own hero.
Impressed by Tor's heroic skills, his parents agree that, yes, this guy should become a knight.
You'll make a fine squire.
My brother's going to be a knight!
Just trade in that permission slip and yeah, now we're talking! Check out that chainmail, that's wicked! We head back to the castle and here we can finally start our squire training. And by that I mean they're just conning us into doing a bunch of chores around the castle. Unclogging the poop out of the sewers, clearing the mice out of the cellar. You don't even kill them, you just like sneak up on them, grab them, and gently place them in a bucket. I tell you though, this castle is unbelievably cozy. The blend of stone and wood, the torches and fireplaces, lighting the dim hallways ever so softly. You can practically feel the warmth radiating from each and every room. Once we're finally all done those stupid castle chores, we then can set out to do some real good in the world. The city of Kogum is under attack by the Ixie Raiders, and the dude that's supposed to save them, he doesn't want to, he's too lazy. Well, I guess it's up to us to be the real knight today. From this point onward, you'll basically ease into a gameplay loop. Tormund will visit various spots in the world, saving people from various different situations, battling all sorts of critters and creatures, all the while collecting Neopoints and upgrading your gear along the way. And it's around here when the darkest Faerie finally emerges from the ocean.
What have they done? The world, it's so pleasant and light. Well, we'll soon fix that, won't we?
She literally comes out and says, "The world is too good. Time to make it bad." You don't get any more cartoonishly evil than that. She has like no motivation. She just wants to make the world suck. Well, back to Tormund. We save the people of Cogham, we return to Meridell, and for our heroics, we are knighted by the king.
Sir Tormund, defender of the kingdom and knight of the realm. Third class.
I think this is actually the first character in this game that was actually from the website. The King of Meridell. You had to like tell him jokes by clicking these words and, I don't know, try to word salad something funny together. If he likes it, you get a reward. It was one of those little daily things you could try each time you visit the site. Though I think most kids quickly figured out that it doesn't matter at all what you say, it's just a random dice roll whether or not you get it. So every day you show up and you mash out whatever you see and you just get it or you don't. After we're knighted is when the darkest Faerie starts wreaking havoc all over Neopia, which gives us quite a lot of quests to juggle. Our first course of action, to save Illisen's glade from the invading wereloops. This was originally just the host of some fetch quest you would get from the fairy Illisen, but here they fleshed it out into an entire large forest area with rivers and bridges and even a treehouse area that you'll have to make your way up to. And now it's under attack by wereloops! So a wereloop is what you got if you used a Halloween paintbrush on a loop. They're big and mean looking, so you know, I'd say they were a pretty good choice for enemies here. We battle our way up through the tree fort, we fight a boss called Narfis. It's pretty easy, and then we save a weary Illisen who explains that the darkest Faerie has returned, and it's her intentions to seal away all of the other fairies into a deep sleep and cast Neopia into total darkness.
You must warn King Skarl that she is loose. This land is mine!
With Illisen now under the darkest Faerie's control, a flustered Tormund hastily returns to Meridell Castle. And here we find it also under the darkest Faerie's reign. Failing to snoop around in the background, Tormund gets spotted, and they start blasting us with dark magic. We then get this pretty wild boss sequence with her evil sisters, or their evil whatevers, I don't know who they are. Nothing we have can do anything against them yet, so all we can do is get them to wreck up the castle and create a bunch of platforms we can then use to escape. It's a little bit jank, but hey, being a pivotal moment in the story and all, they really did manage to make something that feels pretty thrilling. After giving them the scramble, we bump into this maid who guides us to a way out.
Where could he have gone?
Aha! A rubbish chute.
Ew! I'm not going in there. We'll just have to flush him out!
You know, as cheesy as these cutscenes are, they are pretty damn entertaining. I gotta give it that much. Tormund sadly floats away on a poop log, and it's finally on to Act 2. Faerieland! I remember Faerieland. Arriving by chariot is Roberta and her mentor, Seradar.
I hate doing these things. I wasn't cut out to be a diplomat, Seradar.
You are the king's niece, and you must do your best for your family and your kingdom.
Far more interested in learning magic, she is fed up with the expectations the royal family has from her. She just wants to become a passionate sorceress, not a diplomat. So, in private, she's been taking some lessons from Seradar. Roberta's design doesn't really work for me nearly as much as Tormund's. Maybe it's the lips? Yeah, I think it's the lips. The 2D artwork looks fine, it's just, yeah, I just don't think it really translated super well to 3D. It is interesting though, actually, in the original PS1 version, she was not the second character. It was instead this other little character based on the Aisha pet. In the final version though, they went with the character based on the Akara pet. Now I do like the design overall, it's just, yeah, I think the face could use a little bit of work. Gameplay as her is pretty much the same, with the exception of her attack being different. Tormund has a sword, and Roberta, well, she casts spells. It's basically just a projectile attack instead of a melee attack, though it does use the exact same 3-hit button timing to deal maximum damage, with the third blast being the one that does a bunch. Mashing is actually pretty helpful with the magic. It doesn't really do much with the sword, but doing this with the wand, you could actually stagger the enemies a little bit, helping to get them off your back sometimes. Also good for taking out those flying enemies. Can't do nothing to them with a sword. One of the coolest details in this entire game is right here, actually. So on the website, if you went to Faerieland, there was this invisible tower you could go into. It looks like there's nothing there, but if you knew where to click, it would take you inside to a secret shop. That tower is here in Faerieland. Just the way you get inside is a little bit different. You have to find a Meowclops, and if you bring it over, it'll unveil the tower, go inside, and the secret shop is right there. You won't be able to buy anything yet, though. It's all way too expensive. I think this is the only time a Meowclops does something other than it normally does. I don't think there's anything else invisible you can find. Maybe there is, but I couldn't find nothing. Oh, did I even mention these, the Petpets, like how they all work? You'll basically find these guys just wandering around, and if you feed one, they'll grant you one buff, a different one per pet. Stuff like attack up, defense up, or whatever else you get. That's usually all they do, but there will be the occasional time where they will do something a little different. Like here, for example, with the Meowclops, or there's other parts, so there's like these little turtle Petpets, you have to lure them over, and then you can bounce up off of them. There's a side quest over here where there's a little girl who wants a specific pet. You'll have to go out and find it and bring it back for a reward. But for the most part, they're just these optional little guys that make you a little stronger for a short while. Some of the Petpets even made it in as enemies, like the Crocobecs and the Draconax. They did such a good job, like picking what designs from the site would make sense as bad guys. I didn't realize just how much they changed the Ixie Raiders design though. They're like centaurs here, right? Hey, got bow and arrows and stuff, running around. You know what they look like on the website? This is the Ixie pet. Anyway, back to Faerieland. Act 2 is ridiculously short. We do like one thing as Roberta, and then the Darkest Fairy arrives to take over Faerieland. Everybody's been brainwashed by the evil dark clouds. Swirly purple eyes in every gaze we see. I'd say it's time to get the hell out of here. We bolt through the castle and try to get out through the endless staircase. Only problem is, it's endless. I don't know what to do, it just keeps going and going and going. I had no idea what was going on or what to do until I noticed, oh, this statue keeps changing. Oh my god, he's pointing the way. They don't tell you this, you just have to notice it. That's such a cool puzzle. Just as we're about to get away on our trusty Pegasus, Roberta is knocked off and falls down to the earth below. Act 3. Now this is where the grand majority of the game takes place. Both struggling at their very lowest points, Tormund and Roberta meet up, and they quickly start tag teaming all the Darkest Fairy's minions. After laying the smack down on some goblins, they realize what a good team they make, so they agree to team up and take on the Darkest Fairy together.
Thank you for helping me with that fight. You are quite good with that sword.
You're pretty good with those spells yourself.
Thank you.
That's when they both notice, wow, they're both wearing the same amulet.
You have the other amulet.
They conclude that if everybody has been brainwashed except them, then it must be the amulets that are protecting them.
The Aisha who gave me this said I had to find its twin. She said it was important.
A beggar gave me this one. He told me never to take it off.
Listen, I know you don't know me, but Faerie is in trouble.
I'll say it's in trouble. The Darkest Faerie wants to drop it onto Meridell, basically using it as a nuke, destroying 2 entire cities at once. We gotta stop that shit.
My uncle is the king of Brightvale. If there is anywhere that we can get help, it's there.
Let's go.
Well, things just got real. Time to hike over to Brightvale to see Roberta's uncle. I mean, he is the king after all. He's gotta have something that can help us.
May I present your niece, the most gracious Lady Roberta?
He knows who I am.
Oh, this guy was also from the website. Basically the same gimmick as the other king, except instead of jokes, you're word salading knowledge. These two are gonna need some knowledge, however, so they head to the Grand Library to find a lead. Here we have to platform up to these comically large books. Yeah, the big books are the important ones. We read up on a lot of the game's lore, the history of the kingdoms, the fairies, even an ancient legendary city called Altador that disappeared 1,000 years ago after the Darkest Faerie brought the whole thing down. Back then, they were able to seal the Darkest Faerie away with the Fairy Queen's powerful wand, of which was gifted to the king after the whole ordeal went down. The current location of the wand seems to be deep underneath Meridell in the treasury, so we'll have to venture out, clear up all the clouds, and once again unlock the path back to Meridell. The Darkest Faerie clearly knows that we're going to stop her though, because she sends an assassin after us.
I'll try to make your deaths painless.
This guy's the worst assassin ever made. He sucks at his job. Every fight with him is pitifully easy. That doesn't stop him from showing up every now and then just to get his butt kicked. He's a weird guy. I don't think he was from the website. I think they made him up for this game. Once he's out of the way and you're done with Brightvale, you're now completely free to do anything you want. Main quests, side quests, anything, anywhere. This is where you'll once again settle into that familiar gameplay loop from the end of Act 1, except now, the doors are open and you have access to almost the entire map. Just not Meridell. We got a lot to do before we can go back there. You'll hike across the land, fighting enemies, scouring dungeons, earning Neo points by exploring and doing side quests, and cashing in for better equipment whenever you can. While, of course, saving each area from whatever minions are causing problems and clearing the dark clouds town by town, village by village. Except now we have 2 characters. You can swap between the 2 at any point you want. Just press the shoulder buttons together and boom, you're the other guy. Oh, I love how you can see the clouds way out in the distance now. That's so cool. We were already seeing these areas across the way, but now we can see that something over the horizon has changed. So the world isn't like open world in the modern sense. It's more like in the classic Zelda sense, where it's a bunch of chunkier field areas all connected via these pathways that you can follow. And there's all these signs showing you where each area is too, so it's not too hard to navigate. Our first goal is to head to Brightvale, but after that, you can pretty much tackle each area in any order you want. And that was really cool. I really did not expect that from a game from the time, but it felt like I had so much freedom. I could wander the map and take care of business at my own pace and tackle all the side stuff comfortably along the way. Brightvale has this cool obstacle course, which is actually pretty fun. You gotta get through it faster and faster and faster for each consecutive prize, and by the end of things, I realized just how much of this you can skip. Another one of my favorite side quests was, you find this locked up wooden door way out here in the mountains, and I was wondering what is with that? But way later, I found a blacksmith in Bogshot, and he had the key. I head all the way back, I go in, and inside I find a mineral. Bring it back to the blacksmith, and he's able to forge me an even stronger sword. Hell yeah. Being a game with a jump button, every now and then you'll have to do some basic platforming. Mostly just climb them up ledges, basic gaps, maybe jump in between the little lily pads, nothing too crazy. Maybe the occasional wall shimmy or beam balancing, climbing up vines, using them monkey bars to get across. It all works for the most part, but it can feel pretty jank sometimes. The ledge grab for starters, this thing really loves to be finicky. It feels a little floaty, but it is magnetic enough to work most of the time, and shimmying along the wall isn't very hard either. But every now and then, it'll really just like not connect. Like right here, I must have jumped at this a dozen times, and I fell in the lava a dozen times. I was beginning to wonder if this is even what you did, but yeah, no, this is what you do. You just have to jump more to the right, because here the ledge grab works. I don't know why. I had to whip out my Sonic 06 nonsense collision brain to solve this one. But most of my platforming issues stemmed from the auto jump. Yeah, it does that Zelda thing where you jump automatically after walking off a ledge. But Zelda needed that. It didn't have his jump button. This game just has a jump button, so why are we doing this? More times than not, I find it just makes me jump randomly. Like, I don't know, I guess I walked off a short bit of geometry and whoop, there he goes. But you know, the actual problem with this is that it's so inconsistent that it is totally unreliable. I have actually died because I was naive enough to think that I would jump automatically as intended just by walking off. But you know what happened? I just walked off. And it was a platform where other ones I have automatically jumped off of before. There's no reason to believe this wouldn't have worked here. I mean, like, if you want to bridge the most distance, an auto jump at the very edge is the safest bet. But it just doesn't work sometimes. You fall and die, and you have to do an entire part all over again. So hey, the safest bet is to push the jump button. Oh, right, that was another dumb thing, actually. Like, in fact, this is probably the dumbest thing about this entire game are the falling hazards. You know, like a pit or water or lava, anything you fall into. Most of the time, they just tick off a little health and slap you back on solid ground. Okay, but some of these, randomly, they're no different. In random parts of the game, you'll just get an instant game over. Like, it's the exact same obstacle. It's the exact same asset and texture and everything. Same thing in both areas, except one puts you back 10 seconds and the other puts you back 10 minutes to your last save point, because game over, buddy. Why does this lava just take off some health while the lava pool in this boss room gives you a game over? I had to do this entire fight over again because I fell in while combing the room for items after the fight was over. There were 2 times in this game that I verbally shouted at the TV because I randomly lost the entire dungeon's worth of progress because my foot slipped. And redoing a boss didn't even happen once. That also happened with the Black Knight boss too. All because they decided falling in this water is way worse than falling in water usually. That is probably the game at its worst though. Other things actually do get better. The combat, for example, it was really rough going at the beginning when we were just a little farm boy with a crappy wooden stick and 0 shield. But with every new upgrade, every sword, armor, and shield, Tormund's attacks begin to feel snappier and more responsive with more knockback, making it far easier to take out enemies without getting tossed around like a salad. Not to mention, ROBERTA'S magic ends up being a really solid option for when things get too annoying. If there's a lot of enemies overwhelming you, stand back and let loose the magic missiles. And this far into the game, you should also have a lot of rainbow modes. I didn't mention these yet, I was saving it for right here. These are the all-purpose and most powerful modes. They're on the sides here, separate from the whole alignment chart. And that's because everything's weak against rainbow. Anytime the combat gets a little annoying and maybe you want to speed up a boss fight or whatever, slap one of these guys on and you'll really get some serious damage going. Hold on a second, it's that noise again. Okay, I'm gonna figure out what this is. What is about me that's different? My magic's low. I use an item. That did it! It's just like your magic is low sound effect? Wow, that is conveyed terribly. You know, another thing I couldn't find out were the clovers. All throughout the game, you can collect these 4-leaf clovers, and even 12-leaf clovers too. This will increase your luck. They even have this cool little visual on the side of the pause screen of the vine slowly crawling up and up the side of the screen as you get more. Very cool. But I could not, for the life of me, get a clear answer as to what increasing luck actually does. The manual doesn't say anything about it, it just says they make you luckier, but that doesn't help me. So we took it into our own hands. We replayed the entire game all the way to Market Town, deliberately avoiding every single clover we see. We have none. My first thought is, well, maybe it affects what the enemies dropped, but the Black Knights here, they were still dropping just as much Neo points as they were in our main playthrough. Well, it seems to be all about the grass. Cutting this golden grass here on my main playthrough would give me 300 Neo points. Doing it with no clovers? Yeah, that's quite a difference, isn't it? During the second playthrough, we also found this book that explains that motes are attracted to clovers. Now, I didn't test this, but I'm guessing it also affects the amount of motes you get as well. Well, I'll be darned and damned. I really thought these things did nothing. The curse status effect, on the other hand, I think actually does do nothing. There's items you can use to remove this, but I never did because I don't think it affected me at all. The poison status effect hurts you. I actually was using items to get rid of that. Either this is a a remnant of something that was going to be in the game, or I'm just not seeing what it's actually doing to me. Treasure chests were also something very elusive during my playthrough. I swear some of the chests that the maps are talking about don't exist. Well, they probably do, but I sure as hell couldn't find them. I was actually kind of hoping 100% this game, but I think that's actually incredibly difficult to do. It also doesn't help that you can only view the map to the place you are currently at. If you want to see the map the Bogshot, you have to go to Bogshot. If you want to see how many treasures you have left in Cogham, well, you better hike all the way back to Cogham. And the backtracking can take a long time too, so realistically, if you're just looking for treasure, you're not going to do that just to check. Not having access to the entire map can also make the backtracking a little confusing. I wouldn't be surprised if some people got lost every now and then, trying to head back to a place or trying to figure out where to go to next, but that's where the manual has your back. There is a full map of the entire game right in the dead center. Makes it pretty easy to get it out of the staples. Wow, they even thought of that. You're gonna want this if you're playing the game blind. You can see all the pathways, and from what I can tell, it's all pretty accurate. I was able to use this thing to easily find my way back anywhere at any time. Though it still sometimes took a while. Backtracking is probably one of the most annoying things in this game. It's fine when you're going places for the first time, but yeah, if you want to go back somewhere, jeez, man, why couldn't they have had teleporters? Why are there no warps in this game? Ocarina of Time had warps, come on! You can make it a little bit better by buying these speed potions, but they're really expensive, so you don't get them enough. They don't last too long either, so they're great for just bolting across the field and cutting down on the time you gotta take, but I just really wish you had more of these, or yeah, if you just had teleports. You know, looking at this map again, I'm noticing now that the placement of each location is also pretty accurate to the website. It's all based on the Meridell Brightvale section of the map, and yeah, while there certainly was a lot of interpretation here, the general sense of direction is actually pretty close. Brightvale is properly northeast of Meridell, Ilsen's Glade is in the right spot, and all the farm areas are also from the site. I don't think Market Town's from the website, I think they made that one up for this game, and neither is Wereloop Woods, though that one seems to be based on the Haunted Woods, so I don't know why they didn't just call it Haunted Woods. This was one of my favorite areas though. I just love the atmosphere here and the colors, the swamp, the graveyard, you got all these dumb skeletons coming after you. And I'm not like insulting the skeletons, I'm not calling the skeletons dumb. No, dumb skeleton is just actually the enemy's name. And you know, this place is also the home of the best Neopets character, Sophie the Swamp Witch. Hands down, my favorite character design on that entire freaking website, dude. She is just adorable top to bottom. This is just such a good character design. They made her model here a little bit weird looking. The face isn't entirely accurate, but it is still pretty cute. On the website, she would let you play a mini game where you're bouncing ingredients into her big cauldrons. You can make a big funny potion or something. But in this game, she's actually part of the main quest. In order to deal with this area's clouds, we need to get into the Wereloop Burrows and finish our business with that Wereloop King. Problem is though, the entrance is sealed shut and we have no idea how to get in. But if we give Sophie a bunch of disgusting soup ingredients, she'll let us know about a crypt where we can find a magic necklace that'll open it up. This is the closest thing the game has to temples, though they are extremely simple to get through. The puzzles usually aren't much more than just pushing a block or going up to a switch and pulling it. If you're not doing either of those, then you're probably either doing some simple platforming or just fighting room after room of bad guys. They all look cool, and they have great atmosphere, but there's nothing particularly interesting about them gameplay-wise. A couple of these are for the story, but most of them are just an optional way to score some extra Neo points and items. If you're real lucky, you might even find a rare egg that'll increase your maximum health, or one that'll increase your maximum magic. Basically heart containers. The feeling of uncovering one of these and diving in to find out what's inside can be pretty invigorating. Once again, that sense of adventure is just completely nailed by a killer presentation. I just wish what you actually did in each room was more fun. This dungeon here was my least favorite. Oh my god, it's way too big, way too maze-like, a million locked doors. Go over here, you push a block on this, and all these doors open, and then check every single chamber one by one by one by one, push another block, open more doors! And when I'm finally done all of it, I'm still missing one chest. How am I still missing one? I must have combed this entire thing over 5 times, and I could not find it. You know what, I really think it's a lack of items that makes these temples not so interesting. The only thing you ever get in this game is a hook shot, but that's not until like the very end. This thing is super jank though. The cursor just starts moving really slowly when it gets to a certain height for some reason, and sometimes it's latched on in a way that just killed me. Stuff also likes to get in the way when you're trying to aim it. It's like please get out of the way. It's like stop. Half the time he shoots in the wrong direction and it still connects. They really couldn't have spent much time making this thing work smoothly. I also wish there was more spots in the overworld to use this. There's only like one place where there's a secret with it. It's a fine addition to the arsenal of actions. I just wish there was more of these, more actions, more items. Now that would have made the temples a lot more fun. Oh, I guess there is also the cloak. I think this thing makes it harder for enemies to spot you. They seem to take longer to see you when you have it on, but there's also been times where it just felt like it did nothing, so I don't really know if that's what this does. You get it randomly throughout the game at some point, and as far as I know, you just need it for this one side quest where you have to go undercover, but other than that, I think it's just for sneaking by some types of enemies. Well, we got all the clouds all cleared up, and now we're ready for the final stretch. I'll put a spoiler stamp here in case you care. I don't know if anybody does, but yeah, let's get into it. With the barrier to Meridell finally gone, we head back to the city, down into the underground, and take a long trek deep into the catacombs. This is where we get 2 of the worst parts of the game back to back, starting with some stressful sewer platforming. Don't fall in the instant game over water. You'll have to do it all over. This is also where the hookshot killed me. Thanks for that. You head across this bridge and you're in that big-ass dungeon I complained about earlier. But once you're finally done with that, we then enter the treasury. And it's guarded by a giant skeleton dragon. It's another basic whack fest of a boss fight, but it is pretty cool the way he falls apart as the fight progresses. All the way down until he's just a stupid little head bouncing around. We grab the wand, head all the way back up into the castle, and zap the Dark Sister's invincibility away.
That witch! She stole our invulnerability!
We beat their asses to a piss, and the king is returned to his old self. He grabs that magic wand and clears the clouds from Meridell.
We did it!
It's not over yet.
Calling her Pegasus for a lift, Tormund and Roberta head back to Faerieland. Oh man, this place is now crawling with bad guys. Here we can recheck that shop and actually afford this stuff here now, wow. We attempt to save the Queen of Faeryland, but the Darkest Fairy tricks us, and we enter a boss fight. Oh shit, she's invincible, there's nothing we can do. So, instead we have to put together a portal and escape once again. Act 4, the very last part of the game. You'll never guess where we just happened to land. The ancient forgotten city of Altador, the place where 1,000 years ago the Darkest Fairy's original malarkey went down. But then, Cool Guy Hero Knight shows up once again. Though instead of explaining anything, he just goes, "You're in the Hall of Heroes, dumbasses. Why don't you do some research?"
The answers you need are here, but you must decipher them.
Alright, when we look around, a lot more lore to read here, surrounding the 12 heroes that once banded together to create Altador. However, one of them betrayed everybody to dominate the city herself.
She became known as the Darkest Fairy.
She was destroying us. In a desperate bid to save Altador, our sorceress, Jordana, twisted time itself.
He explains that they sealed the city away inside a time bubble, effectively hiding Altador from the entire world.
So everyone thought Altador was destroyed.
He then tells us that if we want to undo the spell and bring life back to Altador and defeat the Darkest Fairy, we'll have to awaken the 4 shrines, one in each corner of the city. Now we can set out and take a look around Altador, and holy heck, is this city huge! There's even more to do here than there was in Meridell, like 4 times as much. I'm actually really surprised how much is here, because you only spend about like the last hour or 2 of the game here. The final chapter really isn't very long. You just head to the 4 corners, complete a very basic objective in each one, and that's just about it. Well, over here we heard these whinnies onto these buttons. Yeah, we're finally actually using the first thing we learned to do in this game. Frogs too, we're also herding frogs. And then we have to guide this little thing over here into the light. Oh, I get it. The hero here, her whole thing was that she was all about the Petpets, so all of the challenges here are themed around Petpets. Well, that's 1 hero saved and 3 to go. Wait a minute. wasn't that the maid from Meridell Castle? Alright, on to the next one. You can actually do these in any order you want, which is pretty cool. Like, even in the final chapter, you still have a lot of freedom. Let's head over to this big combat coliseum. Yeah, you're just fighting dudes until they're all gone, until you win, and that's another one free. Oh, this one looks like Torak. Each time you restore a part of the city by doing that shrine, you also unlock all the shops and NPCs everywhere. A lot of them are pretty happy to be no longer trapped in time for 1,000 years. Alright, down to the treasury. Yeah, some basic block moving puzzles, nothing too interesting going on here, and hey, one more hero saved. I swear to God, that is the shop merchant guy. What is going on here? Alright, that's one left, and it's a stealth mission. Well, Solid Snake over here. I'm a Metal Gear master. This is gonna be nothing for me. Alright, so you have to get to this button, and then you have to get to this button. Each one opens one of these drawbridges, but if an enemy sees you, the eyeball opens and the drawbridge closes. But it really seems like it's just, the bridge is just going up. Like, did something see me? Oh, I guess that thing saw me. Wait, how would I not have gotten seen by that thing? What? Okay, we'll go back. You have to hit the reset button like 3 times before it even works. Okay, what about this way? I can get to this button consistently, but after that, I don't see any way to get to the other one without getting seen. Yeah, when that music kicks in, it's like the biggest middle finger. Boom, boom, but I know we see you. How though? What do you have, X-ray freaking vision? There's walls here. No, like they really just see you every single time. What is going on? Dude, I'm just throwing myself at this over and over and over. I'm trying every combination. I'm going every which way, back and forth. I'm trying to hit the 2 buttons in a different order. This is actually the single most broken stealth I have ever had to deal with. It seems like no matter where you go, you somehow get spotted. And the enemy placement is so weird too. They like appear and disappear in the like puffs of clouds, and you don't know. You see no enemies on the map here, right? They just appear. And I guess where they appear is kind of consistent, but sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to this whatsoever. It's just wasting my time, making me do it over and over and over. This is so broken! I can't get through it no matter how many times I freaking try! Okay, so after like an hour and a half of doing just this, I got it to work. I don't know how I got it to work, but this is what I did. Firstly, I drank a speed potion. Then I hit the reset button over and over, make sure it's fully reset, make sure all the enemies are gone. Then I come over here to the right to the first button. Now it seems to be random whether you get caught here or not. You even saw an enemy like spawn with a puff of smoke. But I didn't get caught. This has to be the first thing you do. Just repeat this until you get a run where they just somehow don't see you. Back the way you came, and now diagonal across over to the second button. Hit it, but double back. Do not go past it. Come back around the corner, hug the wall, and stay right here at the corner. I waited here. I don't know if you have to or not. Bolt forward diagonal straight for the bridges, and I somehow make it. Holy heck, dude. You ever see those stupid, relatable gamer memes where it's like, when you replay the game and you get to that part, this is that part! Delete this, destroy this, erase this from the game. There's no way a single human being has ever enjoyed doing this room. And we're not even done. We have to now finesse our way through an obstacle course. There's a time limit too, and it's not forgiving. You have to do it pretty fast. Oh wait, this is actually pretty fun. Yeah, I had to repeat it like once or twice, but it's like, whatever, I learned it and I got through it and it was fun to do. Oh, of course, the hero guy we save is the thief one, you know, the acrobatic one, the sneaky one. Yeah, I get it. Wait a minute, that's Steve Blumfrog, isn't it? I see what's going on.
Since you began your journey, we've done our best to help you. As beggar,
a helpful wandering merchant,
a noble man-at-arms, cleaning woman,
and knightly mentor.
Now, I don't know how they did this, and they never explain how exactly this happened. I don't know if they were using some Jedi mind trick nonsense or something like that, but they somehow projected themselves metaphysically miles away to other kingdoms, despite being trapped away in a 1,000-year-long deep sleep, locked in stone in this other ancient hidden kingdom. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. They just quickly glaze over it and just hope you buy it, I guess.
Now I need you to go fight the final boss and see the credits. Can you do this?
Yes.
Then fuck off. After one last long dungeon with lots of fighting, jumping, and block pushing, a lot of block pushing, a big maze of pushable blocks, and then we gotta push all the lightning things into the right spots, and then we save Jordana the Sorceress, who gives us the magical necklace that we need to finally put an end to the Darkest Faerie's rule. Once we're ready, Jordana warps us back to Faerieland, where we take on the final fight.
I will be remembered forever as the one who destroyed 2 kingdoms at once!
What have you done?
It's falling! And when it lands, all of Meridell and Faerieland will be obliterated!
In 3 minutes, Faerieland and Meridell are both going to die. So that's exactly how much time we have to beat her. But man, I got smacked around like a baseball. I had no idea what to do here. Attacking her doesn't work, so you'd think you'd have to deflect her magic back at her, which you usually do by equipping your shield with the same element as the magic you're deflecting, but doing that did not seem to work. Even the all-purpose rainbow motes that should deflect everything, it kept spawning a minion when it hit my shield instead of going back. Eventually, I just ran out of time and died. Oh, you get like a cutscene if you lose here. That was weirdly unsettling. Okay, so what I'm doing wrong here is if you just hold the shield up too early, she'll throw out stuff that turns into minions. There was actually a boss fight earlier in the swamp where you learn this. If you just hold the shield up, it's not going to shoot the stuff you can deflect. You have to have it down for a bit, bait it out, and then hold it up. Once I found that out, she became a pretty easy boss fight. The Darkest Faerie turns to stone once more. The Faerie Queen is free and restores Faerieland to its former glory. Everybody gathers to celebrate as Tor and Roberta are granted the highest honor.
The honor of Defender of the Realms.
And for the very last thing, we're plopped once again down in Faerieland, surrounded by all the people we met along the way. Even some of the minor side quest characters. Everybody you talk to just showers you in compliments. You save the day, and everybody thinks you are cool as hell. Oh, what's with Ellison? She looks pissed off. What, did the game load the wrong expression? She has no reason to be angry. We walk up to the ledge, and the 6 heroes come on out. Yeah, just like everybody else, you talk to them, and yeah, just compliments galore. The game finally ends when we talk to the Faerie Queen again.
Because of you, Altador is restored to Neopia, and Neopia is safe from a most pernicious influence.
The Darkest Faerie, if I may ask. What became of her?
They stuck her in a fountain as a joke. That's your legacy, you dumb evil witch. You're a joke to everybody! And there's the credits. The end. So, Neopets, the Darkest Faerie. What's the final verdict here? Well, it's yeah, it's a shitty Zelda clone. It is by and large a mediocre clone of the 3D Zelda games. There's really nothing here, at least like gameplay-wise, that Ocarina of Time wouldn't have already done much better 7 to 8 years prior to this on the N64, however long before this it was. It's just incredibly derivative, and it's not like it has like the gameplay to make up for that either. The action is pretty subpar here, and all that backtracking too. I felt exhausted sometimes, especially by the end of things. This thing really does know how to challenge your patience sometimes. Yet, I still found myself having a really fun time playing this thing, and I really do think it is just the sheer quality of the world building that really holds this whole thing together. The gameplay may not be anything to write home about, sure, but you kinda just keep playing anyway. There's such a passionate beating heart here that okay gameplay sorta ends up being enough. You're here for the world of Neopets, and seeing it all brought to life in 3D with how good a job they did, I just wanted to explore every last inch of it, meet every character I could, do every quest I could find, and upgrade Tor and Roberta as much as possible for no other reason than I found myself so weirdly invested in seeing what the next armor was gonna look like. like. It's honestly pretty addicting, sort of in the same way the website was. Like, what you're doing is pretty basic and perhaps even repetitive, but hey, you're so invested in the adorable world, characters, and writing that you just don't mind that much. And while the story is kind of dorky and easily for little kids, its sincerity ends up making it stand out pretty well from the sea of snark we get these days. Watching Tormund gradually learn what it means to be a knight, and the camaraderie on display when him and Roberta work together, it's just so much easier to care about the characters when they actually care about stuff, you know? It really makes no wonder why people remember this game so well. There's just so much here that's absolutely worth loving. In fact, a lot of the game's original ideas, like the hero characters, the darkest Faerie, and even the city of Altdor, were all added to the main website after the game released. There's gotta be people out there with these amazing memories of interacting with all of this stuff that they first got to see in the video game. How cool it must have been seeing both pieces of media influence each other back and forth. Now, all that said, I do think a much better version of this could exist. Whether they remade it, or made a sequel or something, or even a fan-made overhaul. I mean, like, the backtracking would be fixed instantly just by making each save station also a warp point. Though I would love to be doing platforming and combat that's sparking with far more imagination and polish than this, so I'm not too sure how much a fan work could really do. It just makes you wonder what it could have looked like if they delayed it even further for PS3. I think it could have looked just like this, except in HD, and maybe better colors and texture detail, and it would have passed pretty well for an early PS3 game. But either way, I do not think this game should be left alone. Neopets has been making a comeback after all. The website is once again in the hands of people who actually want to make it something cool. So, if it really gains traction and takes off like it did before, they really ought to try and get an HD version of this out, or maybe try for a sequel of some kind. But as it stands currently, as of this video upload at least, it's never seen a re-release in any capacity whatsoever, though it is still pretty easy to get your hands on a physical copy. Like, they must have made a bajillion of these, and it must have sold very well, because I see copies of this game all the time. Whether I'm at a pawn shop or just on eBay, there's a lot of these floating around, so it's really not hard to get your hands on, at least. Usually goes for like 10 or 20 bucks, nothing crazy at all, but whether you do it that way or, you know, you ask your uncle for a legal backup that you can play on your Steam Deck. If you are a fan of Neopets, you really should give this thing a try sometime. At least play like up until Meridell just to look around, because it is just such a joy to wander the map and take it all in. It is a pretty long game too. It took me just under 25 hours to finish, so I wouldn't blame anybody if they didn't beat it, but it's still worth experiencing at least some of it. Well, if you could have a favorite good game and a favorite bad game, then I think Neopets The Darkest Faerie is one of my favorite mediocre games. It's just like, if this were anything else and the world wasn't so well put together, I probably would have gotten bored of it after just a couple of hours, but at the end of the day, even if the gameplay wasn't that great, even if it was just okay, they still brought me to a place that I wanted to be. They brought me to a place that I wanted to look around and see everything. They brought me somewhere that actually felt magical. And if you can manage to do that, then, well, sometimes we don't mind if the gameplay's not so great. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching the video. A big shout out to my wife, Tori, for helping me a lot with this video. She's a big Neopets fan and helped me try to keep this video reasonably accurate. Hopefully it was. If you like what I do here on YouTube and you want to support the show, then I have a $1 podcast over on patreon.com.